You're welcome back to the late afternoon show, and it's the first Friday edition where we'll be taking a look at trending stories from around the world all through the week. And so, like I said, my studio guests are Sadiq Abdullahi, Precious Bonsu Stone, and Della Michelle. So let's start our conversation with our first story. Quickly take a look at this.
Ghanaian rapper and tourism ambassador Okyeame Kwame has spoken against plans by government to make French the nation's second official language. According to Kwame, the move is disrespectful to the pride and culture of Ghana.
Okay, so this will be our first story for today, and I'm sure that you followed it, and so you have an idea what really went down. But of course, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Shirley Ayokobochi, announced that French is going to become Ghana's second official language. Okyeame Kwame has spoken against it. Lots of people are speaking against it. I don't know if you put out any post on social media, but that's why you're here, because we want to hear from you. What do you make of it? Sadiq, you want to start?
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, I agree with Okyeame Kwame.
Okay.
And the fact that it's disrespectful, to say the least, to consider French as our second official language aside English. I mean, it's bad enough that English being a foreign language is our first official language.
It's bad?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, if you really want to be able to connect to people and be able to enhance a certain level of development, you've got to do it through your language.
Okay.
And as far as China is a very good reference point, I think that statement or anybody suggesting that is right. You know, there's something we call soft skills. If we adopt French now, what's going to happen is that eventually people will start developing soft skills relative to French or France. And so eventually what you realize is that you would have your population gradually tilting towards everything French or France.
Okay.
I mean, which will lead to loss of identity, which will lead to other problems. Now, more than ever, you would have to have people begin to develop a taste for everything French enough to want to spend money on it, which will begin to impact, I mean, the situation here.
But can we take a look at how, you know, where Ghana is situated currently? I mean, we're bordered by 3 Francophone countries. We have La Côte d'Ivoire, we have Togo, and we have Burkina Faso. And that's one of the reasons why the minister mentioned that there's a need for us to make or adopt French as our second language. Is that not good enough? Precious, you want to come? Anybody?
I mean, it's good enough if we are in touch with them. You know, if we're trading extensively with them, that if I had a company here, I have one in Burkina Faso, I have. But it's not that. That's not happening. So if you say the fact that they are your neighbors does not necessarily mean we're in touch with them. When was the last time you went to Togo to do anything apart from leisure, for example? And so if that's why we are learning that, then we might as well learn how to speak Mandarin, because people go to China to bring goods. And in fact, we are more it's more important for us to know how to speak Mandarin than to speak French, because we have all the Makala women going to China. So why don't we have them be able to communicate so they can have better deals and negotiation skills? But I totally agree with him. I do not really think that adopting one local language is the answer. But then if we're no, I don't, because it's so diverse. I mean, let's list it, you know. You speak Ga, I don't. I speak Tree, you can speak Tree. I mean, I'm limited in that regard. So local language, maybe we can talk about that later. But if we're trying to adopt a foreign language, it has to, you know, it has to make sense economically.
But is Tree not the commonest language across, you know, the tribes in Ghana, especially?
Largely so,
Largely, yes. But, I mean, obviously you'd have other tribes raising some objection to, because don't forget that once you elevate a particular language as an official language, you're elevating everything relative to it. And so if in situations, if you have situations where for some reason people belonging to the dominant language being spoken in the country do not play themselves well, so to say, you would have a situation on your hands which any government or any state would want to prevent. But then again, I mean, even the same state hasn't done well pushing the whole agenda of children or kids adopting their local languages enough. Years back, a decision was made. It was actually a policy decision to have young people in schools learn Ghanaian languages. So some of us learned Ga, learned Twi, learned other languages. If you find yourself in Greater Accra, mainly you're going to learn Ga.
I learned both.
Yes, exactly.
I was in both classes.
You know, as a way of communicating among ourselves. But very quickly, the whole idea of we learning French because we are in the midst of French countries, it doesn't have any correlation to it. But other than that, all this, when you check China, for instance, China is surrounded by a lot of Hindu, Muslim countries and all of that. And so far, it's not, if that is a very good reference point, it's not had any impact on them. They have different languages. And she was right when she said that. We go to China a lot. I've been working with a Chinese company on the side for nearly a year and a half. We've been to China and back and everything. I don't know how to speak Chinese, but
so
essentially, the company is developing here. A lot of people don't know that Technophones, the parent company, is Chinese company. But they have a working force here. There's a massive workforce here. There's a number of things here. It's actually a market leader in terms of smartphone locally in Ghana here. You know,
most of our road construction.
And none of us speak any of these languages. So once she's not been able to provide any correlation, I can just only treat this as one of those diplomatic talks she had. You need to know even the platform where she said it. She said it at the platform where she needed to engage in some diplomatic talk of sorts.
Let me bring you two in quickly. I could go to Della first, if that's okay, because I know that business-wise, you have a different opinion about all of this.
I mean, it's interesting listening to both of them, and then the fact that he says he's been working with a Chinese company for a year and a half, and he's going to China and back and forth, but you haven't worked in a Chinese company, because to work in a Chinese company in China, you're supposed to learn 6 months Chinese.
Okay.
It's taught. Even if you are interning in the company. And I'm saying this because my kid sister went there to do an internship, and while she was there for 13 weeks, they taught her Chinese for 8 weeks.
Okay.
The ones that she can communicate with. You spoke about the fact that we have in other countries, and we don't, especially the French countries, and we don't go there to business. It's the same thing. We are not going there for businesses. They're not coming here for businesses because there's a language barrier. Most of us
But how about Nigeria then? Why wouldn't we have Ghanaians go to Nigeria to do businesses in droves?
No, Nigeria, they speak English.
Exactly.
Nigeria speak English.
Which is close to us. But how, that's what I'm saying, that if it's anything to go by, how come we haven't had that massive, I mean,
but are we
relationship
looking at the fact that aside where we are placed as a country surrounded by 3 francophones, looking at Africa, we have 26 countries in Africa that are francophones.
Okay.
They speak French. In all these 26 countries, we have countries that 60% of the people speak French. Even holiday destinations, Sao Tome, they speak French. And French, 65% of the people speak French, even though they're officially colonized by the Portuguese. But that is the 2 languages that they officially communicate in. And these are places where people want to go and have holidays. You understand? In terms of business, us learning French as a second language, because already we taught in schools. We learn French in primary, we learn French in senior high, we learn French in universities, and we even learn Chinese in universities. We learn Swahili, African, and some other things.
Why would there be a special need to make it a second language, official language, in fact?
That's what I'm saying. In terms of business, in terms of transactions, we love the Cartier. Cartier is a multinational French company. We love Renault. We love Pajero. We love the Lacoste. We love the things that the French love.
And
you think that's enough?
It's not about it being enough. As I said, the angle we're coming from is business.
I understand.
We are coming from business.
No, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing that people here have developed a stronger taste for foreign stuff?
We already have a strong taste. That's why we go to China. We have a strong taste for foreign stuff.
This is the basic problem for our foreign exchange relationship. Isn't this the basic problem for our foreign exchange relationship?
We are in Ghana here. We go to Chinese restaurants and we eat. We don't even know what they're eating.
But we are eating.
But is that good enough? That's the point that I'm making.
When was the last time you went to a French restaurant?
Not too long ago. Not too long ago, actually.
That's the point that I'm saying. That is that good enough?
It's not.
You have in here. One of the major problems, one of the major most discussed issue has been the issue of exchange rates. And one of the main points of it is exports relationship relating to our funds here. There seems to have been a situation where Ghanaians have developed a stronger taste for foreign stuff and do intend a lot of it, import a lot of it, which partly has contributed to it. I know how successive government have tried to push, for instance, a whole push on importation and made in Ghana rice, so that you don't import more rice or you don't import more sugar and everything, so you can have a way of balancing it and you can have a very stronger economy, right? Now here, bring it to even entertainment. The more reason why we still have certain situations here, aside from the lack of certain policies that would drive and enable the sector, is because we've developed a taste for foreign content. We've developed a taste for foreign stuff. Why? Because you prioritize it. Yes, exactly. Because you prioritize it. Once you prioritize it, and I have seen firsthand by working there, I've seen firsthand how certain countries, by prioritizing a certain level of local content, help their people to develop a taste for it enough to spend money on it. By spending more money on it, the people got money back. This is direct money into the economy, enough for them to want to expand. So one, the question I ask is, what would be the main reason of making a particular, for making your people develop a soft skill for a different state, particularly when you're talking about tourism? Do you know what it means for us to develop a taste for them and continuously go to Sao Tome for tourism? Do you know what that means?
When we should rather be getting people to come here. This is you pumping direct money in somebody's economy. So the point I'm saying is that if you're speaking of it as a matter of development, why would you want to have your people develop soft skills and taste for everything foreign rather than yours, as a way of using that as a basis of inspiring and getting people to come in? Stone, I need you to come in quickly so we can go. We can move on to our next topic. Stone, what do you have to say?
I think Ghana as a nation, we have a virus, which I don't know when we're going to have the remedy for that virus. It's just like HIV. The virus with Ghana is importation. We import everything, and now we are even struggling and making it a national policy to import foreign languages.
Is that what we should? Is that how we should even tell?
That's the call.
I'm coming.
That's the call.
You see, let's take two countries. Let's use these two countries as a case study. Nigeria started speaking Pidgin. At a point, everybody was laughing at them and making fun of them. Are you aware that now BBC has a Pidgin channel? They built it and they exported it, and it's picking up in the world. When you go to South Africa, which is the second point, South Africa has 9 official languages. They have the Zulu, the Xhosa, the whatever, 9 official languages. What stops us in Ghana from making Akan, Ewe, like the
top 5?
If you go to BA, Takrade and those areas, Akan, you see the language it weaves into each other. They understand that language. When you go to the north, there should be one language that transcends, it cuts across, that at least people relate with. When you come to the Volta region, so why can't we just pick about 5 of them and make them official languages? Now, the minister is talking about making French a second official language. What is an official language?
A language that is used to communicate across.
It is your language that is official language. Bella, I was in school in China, like Sadiq said, and you go to, let's say, Silk Market in Beijing, and you speak English and they are looking at you. Trust me, they'll pretend they don't understand what you're saying. Until you speak Mandarin, they will never mind you. How much is this? Then they'll look at you. Do a sign language. So look, the moment you step
doesn't work there.
Trust me, the moment you step in China, they make sure that they put their language in you before you leave.
They put China in you.
So you go back home carrying China with you. What happens to Ghana? When people come to Ghana, look, even when our children speak our local languages in classroom, in schools,
everybody looks at you
they
like,
pitch them. They punish them. We are sick. We only import, we don't export.
My audience agrees with that. I want us to really wrap up on this and move on. Okay.
A lot of kids. I mean, Ochano Kwame even related that yesterday when I heard him, when he said that psychologically it's been proven a number of times that kids or people pick up quickly when you speak to them in their local languages. When you begin to educate them in their local language, they pick it up quickly. Done. Because if they have to learn a different language, there is first and foremost the first step of learning a different language and accepting or receiving instructions in that different languages. which takes some bit of time, unless some kids that are faster. You understand? So, one, if you are prioritizing it, that will be a way of beginning to teach your people. And I'm saying, look at precedents across the world. Are we suggesting that by China maintaining one official language of Mandarin, they didn't develop?
They did.
Or are we suggesting, what is the really, is it the fact that we are in the midst of French people? How was that connected to our development? How is that connected to our growth as a people?
Yeah.
You know, there are basic things here that needs to be gotten right. Why is there a certain push for us to accept a certain foreign soft skill?
Let me quickly throw it to my audience and find out if anybody here has anything to say at all, so that we can quickly move on to that. You have something to say? Okay, so we're going to arrange for him to be able to speak. Okay, the microphone is right behind you, so please kindly go ahead. Mention your name.
My name is Dennis.
Okay.
And as Sadiq said, where kids actually pick things at a very tender age. So this, when the minister is saying is going to be put in their curriculum, teaching them will actually build this French identity for them. And we always say the kids are the future. So when you are building this identity, the Akan and the Chi and the Ga that we have will be lost, because we want them to speak French, as the minister is saying. So the more they speak the French, I think they will gear towards French more than even their local languages.
And that would serve as a problem.
But
Okay.
the thing is, why are we acting as if French is not spoken in this country?
It's already
It's
a major business.
We have a school, a whole French school in the country where everything is taught in French, including mathematics.
Exactly.
But you see, Bella,
Let's quickly move on to our next topic. Otherwise,
Wait,
we
so
won't.
if you want to put it out there, and you're talking about now children picking up languages, really, who are we going to? You can't say government is at fault, because
We've
when
been
I
pushing for it.
when I was growing, as you mentioned, I learned Ekriapim Tree. And Ekriapim Tree is different from Ashanti Tree. But I learned Ekriapim Tree. Do you understand? So if we're going to talk about making a language, our national language, one of them an official language, which of them? Because even in Tree,
That's
it's diversity.
Well, that's a different conversation.
Are we now agreeing that? Are we now okay? If we are agreeing that, okay, so it's a problem. Then we can now go to the next step of, do we have to choose any of the local language or elevate them? Just like
We'll have to move on to our next topic. Otherwise, we won't be able to discuss anything at all. Okay, 30 seconds each.
You see, like Sadiq is saying, what is the point of this adapting French as a second official language? Is it for communication to our neighbors or business communication? When it comes to communication to regional integration, I mean,
that's what the
what?
minister said.
We should target business. Where is the world economic giant tilting towards? It's China. And that is 1.6 billion people.
The Americans are fighting China, by the way.
Look, Americans are learning.
That's a lot of foreign policy that can be discussed.
You understand? So if we want to adapt a language for business-wise to grow our economy, then it should be Mandarin, not French.
And let me just speak on behalf of all the children in Ghana. Listen, parents that kind of undervalue your local language. You know, there are some parents that when they hear their children speak Chi or Fanti, it's like, oh my God, there's chaos in my house. Stop.
Okay.
Stop, because they are integrated in a community. Most of your children are vulnerable. If someone is kidnapping your child and they don't understand that those two men are saying Monchenenko, you are killing your children. And I don't need a minister to tell me what my official language is. In my home, I should have my own official language. First of all, so that when my child goes to school, it doesn't matter whether they're studying English, French, Mandarin, you can bring all the languages. My child is still grounded locally. That's what message I have for parents.
Communication. Isn't it interesting that even for the French countries that are surrounding us, majority of their people do not speak French. They speak local languages.
We'll leave this for another day. We have to move on to our next story, otherwise we won't be able to make the time. So let's take a look at our next story so we can discuss.
Mr. John Peter Amewu, the Minister of Energy has assured the public that the country is not back to doomsday, and the areas within Accra experiencing power outages will soon heave a sigh of relief. He said industry players were working to address the challenges and measures were underway to offload some power of the affected areas, which include the Central Business District from its substation to that of the Achimota substation to ameliorate the situation.
So we're coming back, and the conversation is just getting heated up. We're leaving French behind and talking about doom. So just last week, Accra was plunged into total darkness. I don't know which part of Accra was it, because
It was in Kumasi as well.
it was in Kumasi as well, right? Because from work all the way through to the house, everywhere was dark, and all Ghanaians were complaining. We were worried that doomsday was back. The minister says it's not back. Do you believe him? Do you? Yes or no?
Okay. You see. You know, as a minister, he's a politician. So they speak political language. Whatever to tell the people just to get them off your back, that's what they do.
You think that's what he did?
Exactly.
Have you experienced doomsday this week?
Almost every other day, man.
I experienced last night, though.
Almost every other day.
Every other day.
I think once last week.
Yeah.
But then let's take it back to ECG now being PDS. Again, we've sold ourselves, no?
Yeah.
I mean, they gave us all kinds of explanations. I listened to them on radio, and it's good. They are going to bring business, whatever. Great. But, you know, if our lights are going off and you are this new guy that's supposed to do things right, what do you have to say? PURC has launched an investigation into the thing. PDS is saying, oh, there was a road construction, blah, blah. And then minister says it's not back. First of all, what is doomsday? Because the minister can technically tell you it's not doomsday. And he could be right, because lights being out for a couple of hours doesn't translate to doomsday. Doomsday is when you have an actual schedule that says Monday you're going to go off for 12 hours. This one will
But there
go
was
off
a
for
schedule. A schedule came out during that period.
No, that's what. No,
Load
that is what doomsday is. When you know you're getting out of your house, and tonight I have to iron my clothes for the rest of the week. But now it's sporadic. Like you wake up and you're boiling a cup of tea and it's off.
And it goes off.
And then you don't know what time it's coming back. So that's why he can comfortably say it's not doomsday, because then you can tell him there's a schedule, you know, oh, the lights just went off and miraculously it can come back anytime.
But I mean, regardless, should we not be holding them accountable? Especially since you're saying that PDS came in to resolve the situation, and then things got even worse with PDS.
Of course. I mean, there's something called vicarious liability. It doesn't matter whether there's PDF or PDS or PDF or PhD or whatever. It goes back to it's essentially the principle of ultimate responsibility. It comes back to you. So this was us years back. When we were there, we had load shedding, we had doomsday, whatever you call
December.
it.
I remember that day.
You promised, you made it a matter of major public conversation. You leveraged it to come to power. And so the expectation was that you're going to ensure that you do some work related to it.
Right.
It turns out that the previous guy who you spoke much about had instituted a number of things which is giving us some semblance of stability, which you haven't added to. And then there's this thing that we're experiencing.
Right.
When you go back, there's this thing that we're experiencing. So definitely we should hold you accountable on the basis of the things you spoke to us. Now, when you check the precedents, you again will see how previously, when we had doomsday, which impacted business economically and which led to the loss of the other party, the election, you would see how it starts. It always denials until it blows out in everybody's faces. So politicians, as much as they can on issues such as this, will never be truthful or realistic with you. So even if he is, on the basis of that, me personally, I won't believe him until we're able to verify. Unfortunately, this is a very technical issue where most of us, unless of course we are electrical engineers, wouldn't even have an understanding. If they say
what it is,
whatever megawatts, I don't know what it means. You know, so we can just keep pushing them on not necessarily taking what they say as the truth, but consistently on the basis of what they promised us before they came to power. We keeping on hitting on them and stressing that to them that we can't afford to have, even if it's 30 minutes of power out.
Right. Do you have lights in your house? I mean, did you have lights before leaving home today? Some of you didn't, right? It went off. Who has lights off currently? You do. Is the microphone?
It's fair to say that this week has been better.
Yeah. It has been, but still not any better. Who wants to speak on it? You want to say something? What has been the situation in your area?
Okay, my name is Regina Delade.
Okay.
I think it's really bad to wake up to see that your light is not on without you being informed, and you don't even know when it's going to come. Most importantly, when you haven't even prepared for it, it's really bad. I experienced one last night, and it was really bad because I didn't know what to wear, and I had to leave home very early too.
Yeah.
So you can see how irritating that can be.
How did you manage then? You have to come and iron
Fortunately,
in school or in the office?
Fortunately,
you had ironed ahead of time.
Yes, I had this, and then I just had to, even though that's not what I planned wearing. So it's really bad. I think it would be nice if they will give us the schedule. That would rather help.
You prefer the schedule?
Yes, I think with that.
You don't want things to get better. You prefer a schedule?
Oh no, since that's what is happening now, I
maybe
think
it'll be better. Who else wants to speak in there? If you want to speak, or I can go back to my panelists. Yeah? Okay. So Della and Stone, you haven't touched on this particular topic.
With the issue of Dumso and Bella, look, since Kwame Nkrumah established the hydro dam, nobody has added any value to our electrical generation, government in, government out.
You don't think so?
All they do is massaging it and then throwing it in the faces of people because, look, now, when you see the crisis, then they will go and then they will get some fuel, power some generator, give you some 2 weeks of power, and then you keep quiet because they are thinking of the next election so that you vote for them again. Bella, I think it's about time our leaders start thinking right because some way, somehow, I'm saying this with caution. I think sometimes we put the wrong people, we have the wrong people taking decisions for us. And it's not helping this nation.
Are we not the same people voting them into power?
Well, because a lot of people take 20 cities and 50 cities. That one is on the side.
Yeah, that's
let's
debatable.
focus on the
That's
issue.
debatable.
That's why I said let's put it on the side. Let's focus on the Dumso issue. Bella, most of these are politicians. Their children live abroad. They study abroad. They themselves, almost week in, week out, they travel abroad. They see what is there. Any country that depends on resources or energy that you have to be looking around for, it's not a serious thinking nation.
Okay.
Ghana, we are so blessed that we should not be having these challenges. Hydro dam has been how many years? 60 whatever years ago. So we should know that at a point in time when the population is growing, it's going to blast in our face. And we wait for it to blast, which has happened years ago. And instead of finding a solution to it, we're still doing the, issue. No. Look, from Accra to Paga, there is wind throughout. Once again, when I was in China, we visited one windmill factory. And I was asking myself, so what is wrong with my country? Because about 40% of China's electricity is from windmills.
Yeah.
And we have wind free going waste. When we talk about solar,
I was going to touch on solar energy because
you see, for solar, you know, the panels and those things, probably they will think that it's going to bring some cost.
Yeah.
But let's talk about windmill. Look at how Tamale is. I don't know if you've been to Tamale. I saw you in Tamale recently.
Yes.
Look at how vast the place is. We can set up a wind farm there, which can supply the whole north. Look at areas like Koforidua and those places. There's so much wind that when we set up windmills, my dear, one windmill can supply an area. We are reducing, and we are not depending on let's go and buy crude oil and then all these excuses. But it's all these things are just political bullshit. They should spare us these things.
Spare us. I know TV language, so please in the heat of the moment.
Sorry
about that.
I take that back.
We're going to quickly move on to our next topic. I'm not sure if Della wants to touch on this.
I
30 seconds.
I agree with
So
Stone.
then there's not much to say.
You know what? In Australia, they recently had power crisis.
Okay.
In Australia. So power crisis is not new to, it's not an African problem. everybody can have it. Again, it comes down to we're growing. The demand is increasing. So what do you do to, you know, buttress what you have?
Crude oil.
And
which is not there.
And you know, Elon Musk, the guy that's taking us to Mars, spoke to Australian, you know, Prime Minister and said to him, I can provide you with solar energy, and people can, you know, decide I don't want to be part of ECG and its whole whatever, and then I will do solar energy. And it's helping them. Why can't we have other alternatives? Again, it's somebody's personal interest to keep us in a thermal energy position so that he will go and be the guy to buy crude oil, like you said.
I think that's what it is.
And buy more generators because it's in his personal interest.
Yeah.
It's not about the people. It's about what he needs to be the hero of the time. And so let's keep them in the dark so that I will be the hero who will bring one generator.
That is what is killing the nation.
Speaking of which, the CD dollar issue as well is also another big one. The depreciation of the CD.
Today it's been too passionate for me.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. There's so much that's not going right in Ghana, and it's affecting the young adults especially. But let's take a look at the story so we can discuss it.
Mr. John Peter Amewu, the Minister of Energy, has assured the public that the country is not back to doomsday, and the areas within Accra experiencing power outages will soon heave a sigh of relief. He said industry players were working to address the challenges and measures were underway to offload some power of the affected areas, which include the Central Business District from its substation. Singer Samini is appealing to government to, as a matter of urgency, do something about the depreciation of the city. Speaking in an interview, the reggae and dancehall act said the situation is affecting everyone and must be fixed.
All right, I apologize for the replay of that doomsday story. Quick message coming in before we move on. So Richie Mensah also is supporting Ochame Kwame. Says, I'm shocked that some are even disputing what Ochame Kwame is saying. How can a country with a rich culture and beautiful local languages choose a foreign language to be our second official language? We should really appreciate our own. We should be proudly Ghanaian. Now, one Belinda also sent a message that we were not colonized by the French. Reason why English is our official language. Why not come up with one national language and make it the second official language? Most Schengen countries have made their national language official. One must spend at least 1 year in school to learn to speak and write it before getting a job. It goes a long way to strengthen their economy, and we can't help but agree. But now let's talk about the city. As it stands now, well, I just got information that the black market, a dollar is going for 5.6 Ghana cedis selling, and then you can buy it for what, 5.8, close to 6 Ghana cedis. Yeah. But officially, I think it's 5.2, 5.19. That's where it's hanging on now, which is
the official thing is what is creating the confusion.
It's high.
It's demand and supply, really. I mean, at home, I pay my rent in dollars.
Huh?
At school, I have a school, so the rent is paid in dollars.
Your rent, do you charge school fees in dollars as well?
I have to, because
her
it will not make sense to charge in CDs. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
Because 2,000 CDs it's not $400 anymore. Do you understand my point? So what I'm saying is, listen, demand and supply. I need dollars to pay my landlord.
So that's
my
why you're
landlord
taking
needs dollars to import his doors and his tiles and everything that he needs to put the house in order. So even if it's 1 to 10, 1 to what? 100, 22.5, like Google put it out, we will still have to do it because we need it. It's demand and supply. And so they can come speak all the economic English and, you know, Dr. Baumia, I love you, but trust me, we need to find a solution. We need to have a policy that says no landlord is supposed to charge rent listen,
nobody should charge dollar.
Nobody.
But there was something like that, was there not?
Bella, why would you tell a landlord not to charge
know.
in dollars when our ports are charging in dollars?
The landlord needs, listen, the landlord needs dollars to buy.
There's a starting point
There's
to
always
it.
a starting point.
Yeah.
I mean, he mentioned, I think that as a matter of national policy, you are not supposed to transact business
In dollars.
in dollars. But then again, I mean, that's what really
However, we are
happens.
an important
So is
country.
it
I mean,
that
we
we are
only
indisciplined?
I think we are
don't
indisciplined.
sell.
Are we?
No, I think we're just trying to survive.
Because now we are the ones who are
No, this is the
know,
point.
putting
People
a
are
thing on
just
us.
people are just trying to survive. In a situation such as this, it's not a matter of they being indisciplined. People are trying to survive, like you indicated. You import a car, when it comes in, the percentage of the statutory payments you make at the port is dependent on the cost of it in dollar.
No, but you see, you
So
mentioned
that's the
something.
beginning point.
You mentioned something right now. Let me take you on what you mentioned. You said that there was a national policy that we should not use the dollar. There's somebody who's in at the port. And that person is the one charging in dollar.
But that's the person
and
who
you are
represents the
doing
states.
it and you are
That
doing
person
it.
represents the
So that's
states.
what I'm saying, that is it us that we are able to put out policies yet we cannot
Well, it's
go
not
But
back?
this is a state
Shouldn't we
organization.
even
A state
refuse?
No,
organization
so
should
if,
enforce it.
so if it's a state organization, now the problem is that there's somebody who is manning it. You don't see a state is manned by an individual who happens to be a citizen, even though
if it's
it
not
has
part
everything
of
to
their
do with this.
policy, it will not pay. Eventually, you pay in cities anyway.
So you're trying to say that
What I'm saying to you is that you pay in cities anyway,
Yes,
but
I
the
paid my rent in
cities
cities.
is
It will be
relative.
equivalent, yeah.
Is relative
Yeah,
to
to
the
the-
cost of the dollar.
Listen, I paid
Which
my
essentially
rent
is higher.
in CDs.
no, but
You
you
paid
see,
in
you made a
CDs.
point. That's what I
Listen,
want us.
I
That's what it's
paid-
like. We are looking for the
Listen.
For
solutions.
instance, when we
Let
said
me-
about
let
the
me
port,
tell you
okay,
something.
wait. When you go to the port, for
on,
instance,
Precious.
Okay.
you will not pay the ports at the port. You will not pay dollar of the
pay
port.
cedis.
You pay cities.
But then
but the
it's
cities you
equivalent.
pay is relevant. Is
They give you,
relative.
they give you the
Yeah,
cost
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
for the
dollar.
dollar rate.
The dollar.
Listen,
Yeah.
So,
So,
the
for
one
instance-
giving the quote in the dollar.
No.
Who's the one giving the quote?
Because he
in the dollar?
doesn't control the original price. He has to apply a certain percentage.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
let's
the
Precious
national policy
let
that
Precious
charge
tell
dollar.
her story.
Personal.
No, but then we have a national
It's
policy
very,
that don't
very
charge dollar.
personal.
So
No,
that's
but
the thing
let
coming
her
from.
come in so we see
But
how
you will not trade in
that-
dollar. You trade in cities.
But then you
trade the
pay
equivalent
equivalent.
of it. So, for instance, I want to buy.
It's still dollar.
So I want to buy.
Listen,
a
it's still dollar, right?
The money
Now-
I transact with here
Now,
is cities.
now listen.
right? But it is cities of a dollar
The
equivalent,
behind
which
the
is higher.
scenes.
Is it still dollar?
Listen,
Okay,
no.
let Precious tell her
Let me
story.
tell you something. My landlord has not bothered to increase rent because the guy knows that every morning the dollar will be up by a certain percentage.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I really wish I could pay him rent for the next 10 years so that whether the CD stays at 5 or 100,
Yeah, you
I
are
don't
paid
owe
already.
the guy. But listen, the truth is the guy will never tell you to bring him dollars. But you would wish you had dollars because if you go with your $500 or $1,000 to the bank, your bank account is emptied for just $1,000. Do you understand my point?
Okay.
And so they can say, oh, don't transact businesses in dollars and all that. But every single thing is dependent on the dollar when you're going to buy raw materials for your house. He needs dollars to buy that. And so when he comes back and he looks at your face and tells you $500, trust me, the guy has
the
put
vice,
in
the vice
everything.
president said he was going to arrest the dollar.
So you see, Bella, that's what brings me back to the point that you made, that there's a national policy, but when it comes to the implementation of the policy, we fail.
that?
So
You
who
can't-
is that?
Who is at fault at this
So
point?
right
state.
now,
The
the
same
state.
state.
So it is the state that's supposed to insist that all these things do not
But
happen.
we
But how
buy,
is
we
it
don't
going to-
So
sell, we
if I
import,
tell
we
you
don't
that don't go
export.
here and then I go there, am I not indisciplined?
So
No,
the state,
no,
so
no,
the
no,
state,
no,
for
no,
instance, let me come. Wait. The state,
Simply
in
boys
terms
and
of
girls.
internally, we are supposed to transact business in say cities, right? But if you come to me and I quote it in dollar, regardless, you're supposed to give me cities, but equivalent of it. That's all I'm saying.
Listen,
but then
if we
again,
made
Guys,
this is
Listen,
how it
listen,
impacts. This is how it impacts
But it's
everybody.
still dollar.
Guys,
Now,
We don't
because
make
see,
anything.
let's go back. Let's
We
go back
don't
to the
make
Chano Kwame
anything.
situation where we said that we've developed a taste for everything foreign, so much so that we are importing more
Sadiq,
than
listen,
actually exporting.
if you
Now, because you're importing more and you're importing in dollars, when it comes here, the only way as a trader or
It will
somebody
make
involved in the
sense.
business, it will make sense for you
Is for you
to
in dollars.
sell it
Or the
at that
equivalent.
particular rate, which
And Bella,
keeps on making
let
life
me put this
unbearable
thing
for
out.
people.
Listen, if you don't
Someone
make
wants to
anything,
Like for instance, we
don't make
we
anything.
import,
We
we
need one
import more
person.
rice in Ghana,
Than-
more sugar in Ghana
Sadiq,
than we actually
Sadiq.
produce. Ordinarily, if we were producing internally, it would have been easier and most likely cheaper to do. But because we are importing, for it to make business sense for anybody bringing the rice, which we've developed a taste for, foreign rice, jasmine rice, which we've developed a taste for, right? You need to pay.
Long grain rice.
The long grain. The long grain. At my school,
That's why. So in Nigeria, a decision was taken in Nigeria some time back where the government banned importation of
and
foreign
they're
rice.
they were disciplined. So then it means we need to be disciplined.
And that's why let me say this on the side. That's why Nigerians love. Interestingly, that's why Nigerians love is so nice.
Because the thing is,
I'll go on a break after.
But they're eating it.
Listen,
But that's nice.
I always tell
Okay.
parents and teachers, right? Before you tell someone to make a change, you have to have an alternative. You can't just tell me to make a change and switch to eating Ghana chocolate when you don't make Ghana chocolate. Do you understand my point?
Now we do. We have this chocolate.
We can't buy it.
It's just 3 years. We have to take a break. We have to take a break.
Quick one.
If you
Let
tell
me-
me take a break,
let's
10
go.
seconds, please, so
Let me
I can
come
go
on
quick
this
break.
one.
Hold on.
You see, the CD and the dollar issue that we're having now, this problem should have been solved years ago. You live in the country that
before he moved.
when we produce tomatoes, it rots at
He was a
Akuma.
champion that said he was
And
going
we
to
don't-
They
arrest
said they were going to arrest the
When
brother.
the little that we use like 5% of the tomatoes that they produce at Akuma.
stew, and it
The
ends
rest
there.
rots.
Yeah.
When we produce plantain, we see it on social media. It rots in the farm instead of exporting it, and then we carry money from Ghana
And
to
buy
import tomato from Burkina Faso desert. It tells you, you understand. Now, our problem in Ghana is we so much believe in what is coming from outside that even toothpick we import.
Stone, we don't have an
Look,
alternative.
2018, Ghana imported over $2 billion of rice.
We have to go on a quick break. It's a late afternoon show. We're discussing trending stories. We'll be back.